Okay, YouTubers, this is Joe from ArtAlienTV, another quick game of Interplanetary I Spy for all you space detectives out there. Today we are going to be looking at some Egyptian art, and in particular there's this set of images here from the Curiosity rover taken back in 2014, and the Sol number is 608. So what you've got to do is type the number in there, and then press mass can, this one here, tick the little box and up they come. There'll be a link below in the description anyway for these images. Now, before we go any further, let's take a look at what I've got here to save time. Now, what I've done here, I've got a raw clip of the thing here. I've taken a copy of the raw clip and slightly enhanced it. I've enhanced the contrast and colour corrected it slightly, brightened it quite a lot. And I took another smaller clip and then darkened it a bit so we can see the shape of this thing. Now, this is a relief carving of an elongated, alien-looking person. Now, it's not unlike some you might see in Egypt or in Central and South America, some of the artwork there. Some of the skulls that have been found in South America, in places like Peru, Nazca in Peru, are also this shape. Many have been found on Mars also. Dozens and dozens of elongated skulls have been found, especially by me, on Mars. And also we have the Egyptians, some of the Egyptian pharaohs and kings and queens also had very similar elongated skulls. Now, I'm going to quickly show you them now. I'm going to keep this real short. I've got a whole bunch of stuff up here, but I'm not going to go through all of it. This is a similar one from Egypt here, with the snake effigy on the forehead there, and long elongated head. They wore hats like that because that's the shape their heads were. They had very long elongated skulls like this. A lot of you would be familiar with these images if you've watched Ancient Aliens or anything like that, or if you follow Brian Forster on YouTube, which I do. He goes around the world looking at these things. Very interesting channel, worth checking out. Now, I only found this morning, late last night, early this morning, and I was quite astonished when I saw it, because this is a very interesting example of a relief carving. But not only do we have a relief carving, we also have gold leaf, it seems like. In fact, if I zoom in a bit, I'll zoom into this one here, because that's the larger one. You've got the head coming up here. Hang on. I'll try and centralize that so we can get it in the middle of the page. There we are. Now, this is broken. The slab that it's carved into is split here, and I do believe that the head would have come up more like this. Okay, so we're missing part of the head, but most of it's intact, luckily. And we have the head coming down here, back of the head, the neck here. We seem to have an ear, just here, with some kind of earring perhaps in it. We have the eye here, an eye there, one there. You have a long nose. You have a mouth with teeth detail or something. The chin here. Now, this may have all been once embossed in gold or gold leaf. And the gold kind of starts around the neck area here. And we have a collar with some detail on it here. Coming to here. There's some detail here. A pendant, shoulder, another shoulder here with also some details on it there. So the head comes right up, obviously. It would have come up to here, but we're missing the top part of it. You can see that ear detail. Now, some of it you can see more clearly in the actual darker one I've done. Here's the raw one on the right. This is the darker clip. Sometimes it helps if you make them a bit smaller. It compresses the image down and compresses the detail slightly. I also darken it quite a lot. So this looks like it's been done in gold leaf. If you look carefully around here, you can see this part of it is gold. Now, it's not bright gold, of course, because it's tarnished and probably very ancient, and also these images are filtered and hide a lot of the colour detail. But I would imagine this would come out really quite nice and shiny if it was polished up or just cleaned up a little bit. Okay, now I wonder whether this gold would have covered the whole thing or not. I suspect it would have done. Now, if you look at ancient art from the Middle East and from ancient Rome and places like that, you'll see many examples of this where some of the figures were completely covered in gold. But generally, carvings and statues and relief art like this was only done of important people, and this may have been part of a tomb or a relief carving on a wall in a temple or tomb, or perhaps some other type of important building. Normal people would not have this level of high art done of them. This would have been done of a noble person or a person of religious or royal significance. Okay, so this proves that there was some kind of dynasty or something going on in this area. As I've suggested before, with all the other statues and statuettes that I found, hundreds of them now, this was a burial area, and there are also probably religious buildings, temples, and there are even pyramids and huge ziggurats and domes and things up on the mountain, Mount Sharp as well. So this is further confirmation of my theory that this whole area is a bit like Valley of the Kings, or perhaps Cairo in Egypt, where you have huge buildings and also lots of burials and tombs nearby. We also have a giant sphinx, which is way over 225 feet long, possibly 300 feet long, could be longer, which I've talked about many times before. I'll put a link to that at the end of this video for you to have a look at. So all the evidence is coming together nicely. This is one of the main reasons why the mainstream media now refuse to actually publish a lot of my finds, is because they're not so easily dismissed and are starting to come together in rather a nice kind of way. Okay, so there we have it. I'll put some links to some of these things up for you to have a look at. There are different types of relief carving, and we have in my folder here. Let me get the folder. We have this one there. I flipped this one around the other way, so it kind of matches up slightly. Now this is cut into the slab of rock, and we have a sort of 3D relief cut into the rock. Now the one we're looking at on Mars is the opposite of this. The one on Mars, which I just showed you, they've drawn the outline of the head onto the rock, but instead of carving out the head from the rock, they've carved the rock out from the head. In other words, it's the reverse process of what we're looking at here. This is carved inside. They've drawn the shape of the head and the neck and the shoulders, a bust, and they've carved into it, inside the line that they've drawn around. Okay. Now the one on Mars, if you look at this one, is the exact opposite of that. This has been carved away from the head. So they've drawn the head. So what the artist would have done, they would have got a piece of chalk or something and drawn the outline. They would have already designed this on a piece of paper or papyrus or something like that. Then they would have probably traced it or something onto the rock using a piece of chalk. And then they would draw the outline like this. But instead of carving this part out, what they've done is they've carved away this material here, either side of it, to make this stand out. Okay, so this is a proper relief carving. Very interesting. And this shows a high level of sophistication, and the fact that they were probably using gold, and this looks like it's been gold leafed. Gold leafing is quite a complex thing to do. I did do it when I was a sign writer. Not on rock like this, but on wood, on painted wood. And what you would do is you would draw out the shapes of the letters or whatever, or picture, and then you would use a primer, which is a type of paint, and then cover the whole area in this primer. And whilst it's still sticky, you let it dry for a bit, but before it was completely dry, and then when it went tacky, you would then get the gold leaf and then place the gold leaf and stick it to the surface, and then rub it on and then polish it down and sort of, you'd apply layers of it. And this is a very slow and laborious process, but it looks amazing when it's done properly. I was never that good at it because I was only an apprentice at the time. But I was shown how to do this. Now, in a lot of the statues and statuettes you'll see in places like Egypt and in the museums all around the world are done in gold, but the gold was hammered out and plated into very thin wafer-thin layers, and then applied to these statues and statuettes and sarcophagi, okay, and then kind of stuck onto it. And in fact, the Tutankhamun's mask here, which we have here and here, is actually electroplated. They were using electrolysis to plate some of these burial masks and things, which proves that the Egyptians had electricity. There's no way you could have done something this sophisticated, like this thing here, unless you were using electroplating. Because what that does, it gives you a nice even coat of gold, and gives you a very fine layer, okay? Instead of beating out the gold into a very thin, wafer-thin layer and then applying it that way, it was done using molten gold, using electrolysis and then dipping it into the actual liquid, and then it would stick to the surface. I mean, this is highly sophisticated stuff, and they must have used electricity to do it at some level with some of this, not all of it, but some of the really high-end stuff like Tutankhamun's mask there. So there we are. So what we have is not the same as on some of the Egyptian art, like I just showed you, like this. This is carved from the inside. So you carve inside the line, and then you do all the detail and give it a 3D effect, and you get this shadow which outlines it nicely. It's the opposite of that, okay? It's basically, let's look at it on here. It's basically the opposite. You draw the line, then you carve away the excess material around the subject, leaving a three-dimensional, almost statue-like appearance to it because it stood out. It's three-dimensional, more three-dimensional than just a reverse relief carving like I just showed you. So that's really interesting. And who was it? It looks like a man with an elongated head, probably some kind of noble. It could have been a priest or a king or a prince, don't know. But the fact that there's gold leaf here says to me that this was an important person, possibly a king, possibly a priest or something, or a politician, assuming they had them. If they had any sense, they wouldn't have done. So there we are. High art on Mars. Not only do we have a relief carving of what looks like an alien looking sort of elongated head, an alien with an elongated head, or a humanoid with an elongated head, but we also have gold leaf. This is high art. This is not just some random rock. This is high art. And you can even see, if you look carefully, you can see the ear, you can see the eye there, you can see the nose. In fact, what I'll do, I'll just quickly brighten this up for you a bit to see if we can get a bit more. Actually, what I'll do is I'll darken it instead. I'll just try and push out a bit more detail for you, because unfortunately it's in shadow, so the shapes are a little bit hard to see straight off. That doesn't help. Let's go brighter. Let's go bright like that, and that might actually help a bit. Let's do it again. The picture will start to break up a bit when you go too far. But you can see that now. You can see that shape really clearly. And I don't have to outline it really, because in fact you can see the outline really well in the raw image. It's been outlined by the artist for us already. Who's carved it, okay? So there we are. More high art on Mars. Not only relief carving, but it has gold leaf on it as well. I'd love to see what the skeptics have got to say about this one. They'd probably say it's pareidolia or something, as they normally do, but that's the only word they seem to be able to say nowadays. And half of them can't even spell it. So they can go and eat my shorts. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you soon.